Hello geeks, it is me again with another video updating the interview process and for my first um, supervisory role in like in like 16 years. But yes, I do want to give you guys an update how the second level interview went, what kind of questions they gave me, and my responses. I'm going to give you the outcome that I just found out yesterday and some takeaways. All right, hello geeks again. This is Brian Kui from medcodinggeek.com. If you're new to this channel, thank you for being here and welcome. This video, if you're coming in and watching this video for the first time, this is part of a three-part series where I have shared my journey on interviewing for a job that, again, I just kind of tell the story about how my supervisor just said, hey, why don't you just go for the supervisory lead because you like technology, you like data. It's kind of like an unexpected opportunity that came into my lap, and I've always told myself two questions, or asked myself two questions. Why not? And what's the worst that can happen? This interview happened on Valentine's Day as I sip my coffee. This interview is different from the last interview I had. The last interview I had was with 4 of the team leads, the position that I'm applying to. And this one is now with their supervisor or their bosses, which is the director level. And there was 2 of them. Coming in, I already knew who they were. Coming in, I've already interviewed with one when I got the auditor role. And the other individual I've already met in training. Coming in, I knew one of them, the one that I interviewed with, I knew what kind of questions or what was the objective of the interview, what it's going to be like. And it really is more of a reiteration of the previous interview. But I think bottom line, she wanted to make sure, number one, I was willing to take the role if given. And number 2, am I able to handle the role? I think what they try to portray is that there's a lot of unexpected events that happens in the role. And they wanted to see how I would handle myself. And there's a couple things that I mentioned that kind of recapped from the previous interview. Number 1, which is coming in, I do need to set up a system, kind of like what is my workflow? What is my A to Z? And in the event that there are unexpected events, unexpected tasks, emergencies, whatever it may be, I would have to leave my usual workflow and step aside and take care of the issue at hand or the task at hand. If there are multiple tasks that are outside of my workflow, then it's a matter of prioritization. And so I actually showed them some sticky notes. I showed them a board here that I needed to, kind of like keep track of what is it that I need to do as a team lead supervisor. So I made sure that throughout the whole entire interview process, I was very upfront. I don't know why I feel like I'm deficient in the role, or why I have some maybe it's more like inexperiences, or maybe it's more like it's not on my resume. People tend to, or recruiters tend to focus highly on your resume. But when your resume is not deficient or does not paint a picture of the role that you're applying, then it comes down to what you've done outside of your job, such as volunteer activities, taking initiative, for example, for myself, starting a podcast, starting a YouTube channel, creating Facebook groups. And so I translated those experiences and even teaching, even though it's not necessarily a managerial job, but essentially it is, because you, as an educator, you are managing students to become professionals. I think that's one thing that I brought into the conversation. You know, I think when you look at the grand scheme of things, you have to be upfront. Your resume may not paint a picture of what the job you may be, but again, bring out your own skills, bring out your own personality. I think one question or one discussion point that I brought out is, in the event of all of these unexpected tasks, that come about, is what is my limit? Am I able to handle it? I think that was the question. Am I able to handle it? And I told them, I said, look, I know what my limit is, and I've tested my limit to where it's a lot. And that limit was, for example, doing a full-time job. This happened during the pandemic, by the way. Doing a full-time job, doing overtime. So I was working 48 hours a week. On top of that, trying to, again, mentioned in the previous video, I was part of the CDEI community. The community group to establish the exam, but it got so much, when you're trying to put everything together. And at that point, I knew that was my burnout. And so I know what my time limit burnout is per week. And so if it extends beyond, I would like to say 48 hours. If it extends beyond 48 hours for that week, then I know I need to do a couple things. And I told them, number one, I need to back off, or I need help. And I think most importantly, I need help. And I told them the help here in the organization that I work for is great, because there's different people who do the same job. There are also different components within the company or departments or sectors in the company that I can ask my questions to, and they can help me out. The most important thing is that I do not want to, as my supervisor gave me the advice of, do not suffer in silence. Make sure you're not suffering in silence. If you are suffering, you need to speak up. You need to ask for help. And I think that advice kind of clicked. It allowed me to, you have to give yourself the permission to know what line is it that you can draw on tasks that you can handle. Let your supervisor know that you're at the limit. That's my capacity. And if it's not enough, then you tell me what needs to happen, because either you're pushing me too hard or I'm not doing enough. It's either or, and it's either my interpretation versus yours. So I made sure I put that in there. Other than that, let's see, what else? I'm trying to remember. I'm trying to remember this stuff. Oh yes. One question that came up was, what didn't you like about being a supervisor or manager in your last job? The one thing that I did answer, that I try not to kind of correlate to the current position, because again, I don't know what the current position is like on a day-to-day basis, but I did share on my day-to-day basis 16 years ago is, the question was, what did I like and what I didn't like? Number one, what I did like was interacting with people. I explained to them that, I was of 12 years as an auditor, reviewing charts, not necessarily, dealing with people, and coming into a role that is remote and dealing with zero people except for your supervisor, and you're not seeing anyone. Coming into a role that now I finally interact with people, it's not just casual conversation, it's now meaningful conversation, and I can make a difference in that person. I can make a difference in the team. And that's one thing that I enjoyed doing as a supervisor in the director level position that I had in the jail system for medical records. What I did not like was unexpectedness, meaning there was one instance where I get a call unexpectedly, in the middle of the night where there's no employee who did not come into the shift, and I couldn't find anybody because everybody was sleeping, and I ultimately had to go and deal with the situation. And I explained to them I had to, fill the role, do the job as best as I can, and then identify what the problem is with the employee. And then from there, HR, etc., the escalation process and so forth. I think what I told them is I just don't like anything unexpected to happen. But again, this was a director position versus a supervisor position. And what I should have told them is that, what I noticed and observed in this company is that there's great communication from team leader to auditor. Another question that they did ask which was asked before, is what can you bring into this mix of team leaders that is unique? And I thought two things. Number one is my interest in technology. So I am interested in the evolution of technology within the company that would allow my team to do their job efficiently and better. Those are one thing. That's one thing, the technology aspect. The second thing is bringing in my educational experience and not necessarily treating my employees like students, but mentoring them in such a way that like I was with students. I also turned it around and said, look, the team that I get, I will be mentoring them, but in also in some ways they will also be teaching me, because depending on who you give me, they may have more experience than I do, and sometimes I may not know the answer. So in essence, I may be getting education from them. In the event that I don't know the answer, again, I have mentioned before, there's great resources within the company. If I don't know the answer, I will be your resource guy and to point you in the right direction and guide you there to make sure that you have the answer, you have what you need to do your job better, and I will follow up to make sure that you're okay. So there's a continuous process improvement loop that happens there. The last question, because we finished actually the round of questions 10 minutes earlier, and they turned it around to me and they asked, do you have any questions? I said, not really, but then they rephrased it because they really wanted me to answer that question. I said, let me rephrase that question. What questions do you have about your deficiency, what you feel are the deficiencies coming into your job? Like, what is it that you want to know, that you needed to know coming into the role? And that was a really good question, because when I first answered the question, I think the question was, what do you think you will be doing as a team lead? And I kind of stumbled a bit because I didn't know, right? I had no idea. So they switched it around and says, coming into the role, what do you think is it that you need to do, or what are some of the deficiencies or questions you may have coming into the role? And I talked about a couple things, like Excel spreadsheets, dealing with systems. What does the HR system look like? How do I assign cases to my employees? How do I run reports? Am I going to, because previously they used to, the team lead used to cover different areas within the company. And then most recently, due to a company change, they took it out, those components, and now the team lead just focuses on just strictly auditors. And I told them, is that change going to happen? Is that change going to be coming in? Because of that change, I don't have experience in those areas. So if you bring those people in and you want me to manage them, then we run into an issue, or not really an issue, but more of a deficiency, where I have to learn that area. And again, I'm telling you, I don't know that area. And so it's probably up to you to tell me what I need to do, or you need to train me in that area, or find me something else to do, right? And they assured me that structure change is hopefully good. Nothing else happens. So I mean, hey, if new areas come in, that is actually my open door to learn those areas as I would see it. Is there a training period? Because when I became an auditor, there was what they call a ramp up, where it's kind of like a 90-day time period as to, kind of like setting you up for productivity standards. So you would start off at a low productivity rate, and then you would increase up to standard rate for the company. They told me there was not necessarily kind of like a training manual per se, but they're working on it. It's kind of like, here are the basics. At least when they were team leads, they had like a week, and then they were just like, boom, go. And if you have any questions, communicate with either the director or within your colleagues. I said, okay, just kind of give me the equipment needed to run. If there's anything, if I have questions, I will figure it out. And there are tools out there, especially with Excel and pivot tables, which I need to refresh myself on a lot. But it's just the unknown. That is going to take a while, and I explained to them I like the unknown. I know it builds me up. I also mentioned that I am a very loyal employee, because if you see my track record in employment, I stay more than, aside from the director position, which was only 1 year, I would stay like 2, 3 years, 4 years. My last job was 12 years. But if you add up together with the one healthcare system, it was over, I would like to say 15 years, even more than that, 15, 16 years, but it wasn't continuous. So I said, I'm loyal. When you say loyal, it means, and I had to explain them, when I say loyal, I will stick out through the problems. I will stick up through the good, stick through the good, and I will stick through the bad. I will stick through the good again, and then stick through more bad. That's the difference between that. That's the reason why I like to stay. Number one, because I tend to get comfortable, but number two, I'm waiting to see what's going to happen next. If it's a really good company, there's going to be ups and downs, but the ups and downs are more like, trending up this way versus going down and down and up and down on a downward trend. The upward and downward trend is always trending up. So, coming into this company, I see them doing great things, and kind of positioning myself for success, as told by Bertram Lansico from Renowned Talent. You got to position yourself, and I think coming in, taking the interview for this role would position myself for something greater, and I think that's what it is. I think I'm done with the line work of coding, productivity, and auditing. I've already reached that level. Now let's do some other stuff. Not necessarily this. I don't know if it's better, because I don't know. I really don't know. I'll probably have to tell you later on, but I'm ready for that role. They told me that, hey Brian, it was Valentine's Day on Monday. Today is, what's the day? Thursday. They told me, hey, this is early in the week. We are performing other second level interviews, and we'll get back to you. And that was about it. And then my supervisor kept on messaging me and telling me, do you have any update? Expect a decision soon. Have they reached out to you? And I said no. And what she told me is that I guess she kind of gave me some information where most of the team leads that that are in the roles now, they came from her team. She hired them, so she has a track record of producing people who are interested, or kind of bringing up people who eventually become team leads, and that's something that was very reassuring. That was never told to me. I guess she saw something in me that would be beneficial. I think again was that data aspect, that technology aspect, and it so happened that there were openings for the team lead position that were needed, and she saw the opportunity, and she helped me position myself there, which I'm very grateful. So that comes to yesterday, Wednesday. I thought they would be done by Friday, but I'm off tomorrow. But I thought they would kind of finish up their interviews by Friday, but I got an email to yesterday, Wednesday, and it told me that
medcodinggeek.com